Here's the original site we fell in love with and thought it'd be a beautiful spot to retire. Here's what it looks like midway through excavation, essentially where I'm leaving it now, unable to start foundations. And here's what we have envisioned. The site originally looked like this. A few open patches of sagebrush, wide open spaces, some paths from the prior owner where they've gone in with machines. And I needed to start the process like this, getting soils tests done with big machines that have to go deep. Eventually, the site was approved for a single lot subdivision, and I still had to wait and then begin the process of getting a building permit. During that time, I got to know the property, went through sections where there's mature trees and cleaned up the trunks, tried to make them more fire resistant, and eventually got permission to start an entrance. All the sticks you see there were put down in an attempt to get the equipment up a little bit of the ways. However, it was just too muddy too early in the spring. After letting it dry out, coming back a week or two later, we managed to get all the way through there and a bit of an entrance so a car could make it a little ways up. To prevent water problems in the future though, and to do it right, the best thing to do is put a layer of larger rock like cobble down or track out, and then layer angular rock on top of that. So that's what I did. I wanted to be able to get equipment in and out and not have spring be a problem. We already have a short building season. So with some assistance, we spread the cobble, went over it with 2 big deliveries of angular rock, and that's about as far as the county will let you go without approved plans. Tried to take care of the water for the future. Eventually burrito, wrapping that with gravel on the outside. So, looking pretty good for the spring. Original plans show a cut there, C, in the middle, 21.6, 21 feet deep. That means time to revise plans because that was just the upper driveway. I didn't want to overly disturb the area, and turned out we don't need a massive U-shaped fire truck turnaround, so we're able to simplify the driveway and eliminate that part of the plan. Certainly adding months to approval processes, but way less disturbance in the end. These poles show the turns and corners and edges of the survey that was done for the corners of the home. The kids had some fun playing on the big boulders and taking some shots with the equipment. This is my daughter Katie. And Jacob, her little brother. We had a Cat 315 and a Cat 320 working away. It's hard to give you a sense of the portions here. That is, several stories high, where Jacob is standing on the top.
Gee.
That pile of dirt must be 40 feet high. Jacob at the top.
I'll go up top, and you'll film me the entire time. And
these are shots from Rose Canyon, actually overlooking the development where we're building. This is a different hike nearby with the kids this time, a place that they would enjoy more. Back to the site. So this is Trent, great operator, showing off moving massive boulders. This is the site after the first excavators did their original dig. You can see a seam there of how different the soil is a few feet down. massive boulders, huge boulder pile along the left there. Where these guys finished was a spot we were a little bit stuck, the garage area on the back right. So plan revision number 2, removal of the angled garage we're zooming into right now. So where you see the pink on the rock, kind of the lines the surveyor made. So after switching excavators, coming back to the property, we attacked that angled garage, trying to make it work. Truly though, to get good drainage away from the home, I was forcing it. An excellent excavator, Josh Whaley, came in, found grade, then took that up to the next level to figure out where he needed to start breaking, and he used a hammer to excavate out the full distance around the garage. And again, the best thing here ultimately to do is use that now as a way to manage drainage and remove the angled garage and have our 2 bays right up front. So after being ready to pour, I decided to put this drainage ditch along the back for the winter, spring runoff, stabilize, and not pour footings. Since the site plan wasn't working really well with elevation. Instead, we'd move on to grading. After they're done with their pictures, our operator eventually came up. Fast forwarding this a little so you could see kind of how slow things actually were. It takes a long time to move a lot of dirt. But this is a D7 cat from the 70s, and it's a workhorse and a very good operator in there who got a lot done. Very difficult site. So you see most boulders, the larger ones, it's going to push right over top of. Really can't dislodge too much. When he tried to really dislodge the large ones, the equipment would break. The welds would come undone and he'd be sight welding multiple times. So he had a good 3 or 4 breakdowns, but pushed through it, and now along the outer edges where you can faintly see some ropes, drainage is much better managed. Some water comes down that hill. It exits the property per the civil engineering plans. You can see around the back of the main pad, we had to go down several feet, and you can tell here he's really taking that area behind the pad down almost as low as the garage was cut in, which is a good 10 feet lower than the one he's currently at, and that gets us also into the better dirt for building on. That topsoil then gets spread and flattened, dispersed to create side yard. Here he is on the upper hill in the back, where we were able to preserve a good few inches of topsoil, where I now have soil stability fabric and grass planted. About 3 days of pushing, 3 different significant problems. The latest being this front right arm weld has broken right off, so it's got to be redone there. Looks like it had broken once before. That was done. Trying to pop. Some of these just aren't going anywhere without being broken up. But 3 days, there's a lot of pushing done. Eventually the site really cleans up pretty nicely. This is the section he was working on in the video where I was most concerned about. quite a rocky drop. It needed to be terraced a little bit. So we did get some terraces put in. This area is quite rocky. I did need to rake it out heavily. Metal raked it, used a leveling rake quite a bit, planted some trees, got ready for grass, and had already started my trenching for utilities. So I did get a little ahead of myself, needing to haul up water for those trees to start vegetation again. But eventually we did get water done and was able to get them started. The site height in the back was dramatically better after the bulldozer. Here we are establishing some trenches, putting a few inches of sand down before any conduit goes in. There's a sharp turn running water and electric in a very wide, about almost 4 foot, to achieve distance between those utilities. Filling sand down the pretty steep bank here, bending pipe, and ultimately having to cross the road. So we have a backup additional electric, so if there's ever another home built on the property, we have a second electric run there that we can use. There's a fiber line, not shown in this picture, but we've of course run in a pretty wide trench after opening this up some more, an additional water line. If you look, there's wires everywhere. Once we have those in place, it's time to fill compact sand around all those utility lines again. A few more inches, compact again. This is way, way harder than it looked. You really risk your life. Someone does. Myself and a friend Danny in this case, trying to cross the road with all the random utilities already in there. Here I had to swap out that part, trying to nail the right one. I went upsized 1 inch to try to get extra flow, since I anticipate using a lot of water to irrigate, especially to get vegetation started back up. That'll help my pressure. And we had electric running on both sides right against the water. Not how things should be. This isn't how we made it, this is how we found it. The spatula in there was used to try to show where the electric high voltage was running, so that when we came to put this on, no one would have a surprise. And it was so tight they had to use those other bars to pull at the same time as things were installed. This is them putting a protective piece between the two. And finally we have water. So I did some soil additives to help get some grass started, put some perennial ryegrass down, and got water to my freshly planted trees. And this morning, in about an hour, I got all of that laid and spread and watered so it doesn't blow away. And I got the upper area hay spread where the sprinkler's hitting to help grass come through. And then what I did this afternoon to try to preserve our new flat land from erosion was I trenched this. And I trenched it about 75 feet pretty straight here, and was then testing, running water through it, making sure it does what I want in the spring. Now we're not really in a race to build, and it takes a long time to get plan revisions approved. There's architects, structural engineers, and multiple county reviewers involved. So instead, it's time to set everything up so that it'll be stable with spring runoff. So erosion control netting staked in across my trenches here on any of the steep banks. And fall has come. I put down some perennial ryegrass again that will hopefully come up in the spring, right underneath the netting, right through it. That stuff will naturally biodegrade. Started to just take some free stuff like logs that someone else was giving away and use it for things like erosion control and aesthetics. It's a beautiful area, beautiful birds of prey, lots of cabins around, and we're all buckled up with water and electric meters, and the community even got a section paved right before the snow started to come. This is how we're leaving it until the spring.